everybody, and welcome back to the Review of Death, a Doctor Who podcast, and your fortnightly home for Doctor Who news and reviews. I'm Matthew Toffolo. I'm joined as always by Billy Garratt-John. Hello, bud. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. It's a beautiful evening here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's about 9 in the evening, and it's been a bloody lovely day. Summer has arrived. The heat is palpable, and I went for a swim in the pool earlier just to kind of get myself in the, in the mindset of hot fish action, which we all witnessed last night.
Of the land and the sea. Exactly. It's currently 12 degrees here in Bristol. It's a bit grey. Might rain, who knows? So not quite as exciting as your nice weather.
But it's polluted, so you're also in the kind of mindset.
It's polluted. It is polluted. I've just realised my camera is all over the place. I'm so sorry, everybody. Here we are. Is that better?
Having a fiddle.
I'm having a fiddle. I'm fiddling with myself.
But it is early in the morning. That is usually what you're doing about this time. It is time to talk about the war between the land and the sea.
Yes.
Which is why we're here today, to discuss episodes 1 and 2 of Doctor Who's newest spin-off. But
Homo!
Before we get to that,
Aqua.
Before we get to the homos, we have got some...
I can't believe they made that joke.
To discuss. I'm glad they did, because at least gives us free reign to kind of reference it. I feel okay about it now.
I feel less bad about saying that on my on the Planet of Evil episode that me and Johnny did.
That was great. So let's start off by talking about the Sea Devils, which was the re-edit that went out just before the war between the land and the sea debuted on BBC One. This was, of course, on BBC Four. This follows on from the Daleks colorization and the War Games in color over the past couple of years. It's a bit of a new avenue for them to explore. In fact, the fact that they didn't have to colorize it and they just did a recut. I have managed to scrub through bits that I thought might have been tampered with, and that would generate a shake of the fist from me. But I have to say, and this seems to be the general consensus, it's probably the best re-edit yet.
Yeah, I've watched half of it. I started it in the morning, and then lots of other stuff was happening during the day, so I couldn't finish it off. Billy's a bit quiet. That's my fault. Sorry, everybody. That should be better. I really enjoyed it. The bit that I have watched. Like you said, as a cut, much better than a lot of the other ones. I mean, the thing is, you're not taking 10 episodes and putting that down to 90 minutes. And I feel like the way that Ben Cook has edited it, really clever. Some of those more laggy bits of Joe Grant running around that bloody fort trying to break in, interspersed with the conversations that the Doctor's having with either the guard or with the Master. Really cleverly done, I thought. A shame they cut the beginning, though. They cut the start with the submarine going under. I think they just went straight into it. But
and they also omitted the opening titles and went for a War Between themed intro, which was quite evocative. But I always like to see and hear the title sequence before we get into it. And
you always want some diddly-dums.
You always want some diddly-dums, but it is basically a promotional campaign for the new TV show, so that's at the forefront of their mind, to the extent that we shall be victorious in the war between the land and the sea. Now, I saw this little moment clipped online. If you haven't seen the re-edit, they have changed a line, we shall be victorious in the war against mankind, to in the war between the land and the sea. I dismissed it as a shitpost, but no, it is actually in there. And it seems to be a classic Mark Ayres bit of work, taking lines of dialogue and shuffling them around to form a new sentence. It wasn't a Nick Briggs cameo. So, I mean, kind of cool, but at the same time, I can see why it would generate an eye roll.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, to be honest. I thought, like you said, it's an ad campaign basically for the bloody series, so why not? I think Johnny was a bit annoyed. He's like, you can't touch it. And I do get that, because I can be a bit like that as well, but it didn't bother me. I thought it was quite a neat little nod to what was coming later on in the evening. Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with it, and I thought that Lorne, or what's his name, the composer,
Lawn Bath.
Lorne Balfe.
Balfe.
I thought his new score worked well with the Malcolm Clark score. Do you know what I mean? It didn't feel like what we've had with some of the other edits, where the score was totally at odds with what was baked into the existing audio. So I liked that. Although I did see, and I was not happy about this, I did see on Twitter there was a lot of disrespect for that Malcolm Clark score. I was seeing too much. Oh, this is so much better. This is so much better. This Law and Buff score. Like, fuck off. Nothing wrong with Malcolm Clark. His score is bloody brilliant. So, come on.
There were some Cartoon Network style sound effects, which I think is another issue that's still plaguing these re-edits. When the Doctor wallops the Sea Devil before he gets locked up in the naval base, there is a, sort of Hanna-Barbera punch sound effect on there.
There was quite a good one actually when Jo karate chops the guard when she breaks in to get the Doctor out, and she chops him. There was an impact thud added there, and that actually worked quite well. It was like, actually that because that whole little bit feels a bit limp, doesn't it? Really, when she comes in and John knocks the guard over and she sort of chops him. So at least that just made it feel like, okay, that actually felt like there was a proper impact, and it might have done a bit of damage. Yeah, but I've not got further into the big action bits yet, so I'm excited to see what all that stuff looks like.
That was what I was mainly scrubbing to. So the big battle at the naval base is much shorter, but is probably better for it because they are able to use some of the longer clips as quick establishers.
Right.
So when the Doctor and the captain and Jo are walking through the naval base as the Sea Devils first land there.
Yes.
There is a nice cut away from them walking towards camera before Jo says Doctor, where she actually sees the Sea Devils coming round the corner first.
Okay.
And then it cuts back to her reaction, then the Doctor, and then the Sea Devil raising his blaster up, which was quite nice. That weird bit of acting from the Sea Devil that falls from the roof and then hits the ground, and then sort of motions to get up again and then flops back down.
Yeah,
that's been trimmed right down to just the impact as he hits the floor. So
there are some,
I know, but they have put the clanger scene in, which was not in the omnibus edit from the 1970s. So that's a nice little addition there, or retention, I should say, from the original. So on the whole, I have to watch it all the way through, but Sea Devils 2025 gets a Rod seal of approval, which is good.
Thumbs up. And I'm glad, because obviously that is for me, that's my favourite Jon Pertwee story. I bloody love the Sea Devils, so I was very pleased that I wasn't sitting down oh no, what have they done to this? It was very respectful to the original material, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Peter Capaldi appeared on a podcast called Half the Picture. It was a really interesting chat. He talks a lot about the obligations of being the Doctor, and that's in reference to a question the interviewer asks of Ncuti Gatwa, which with it itself is a reference to the Rest is Entertainment podcast, where Richard Osman suggests that perhaps Ncuti Gatwa didn't fully appreciate, or maybe appreciate is the wrong word, but didn't anticipate the level of commitment that is required of him in a role like that. And Peter talks about flying to America halfway through shooting Heaven Sent, so he could do promo at San Diego, doing set tours for MPs, okaying licenses, and the likenesses of himself in action figure form, I suppose. He also talks about his relationship with the show changing because of how big the brand became. He says something like it was less of a cultural concern and more of an economic one. And one really interesting quote, I thought, the show is a victim of its own success. The show I loved was a small thing that just survived, and then it didn't.
Yeah. It was really interesting listening to that, because it did feel like he was probably going into it with the mindset of being like, oh, I'm going into this program that I loved as a kid, and then probably going into it and then having this sudden like jarring wake up call. It's like, oh, okay, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. All of the, like you said, all the brand stuff, and he sort of talks about just trying to sort his costume out, and everyone's got an opinion and all this kind of stuff. And he talks about like how for like John Pertwee and Tom Baker, that for them it was probably more of a fact of, you go in, you film it, and you worry about filming it, and then after the fact, it's like, okay, you do your promotional stuff. Not what he was having to do, where he was like, right, like you said, halfway through filming an episode, now we're going to bugger off to the other side of the world and then come back and then carry on doing it. That must be insanely annoying to just try and work out, all right, where am I? I've completely disassociated from this scenario now for however long, a good week or so, and now I've got to go back into it. Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. I do feel like Peter, and I think we've sort of heard stories about this over the years, that Peter was a bit reluctant to go in with like Doctor Who being like this brand and this thing. I think he wanted to focus on it as a program, because I think we all sort of heard the stories about the sonic screwdriver, that they wanted to give him a new sonic screwdriver, didn't they? And then he came up with the sonic sunglasses as like a rebuttal of that. Yeah, which was probably not the best idea. Should have just let him just giving you a new one, Peter.
There was an interesting bit in there as well where he was talking about directors. I highly recommend everybody go and listen to the podcast.
It's fantastic.
Because we're only doing a Cliff Notes version of it. So it was Peter Capaldi on Half the Picture. He also talks about his music career and Malcolm Tucker and other things as well. But he talks about Rachel Talalay in reference to other directors they had on the show, where he's saying, she's very interested in working with actors. She's not concerned about, right, let's get a wide and a couple of close-ups, and that's kind of the scene covered.
Yeah.
Which I can imagine would also be a point of contention, maybe the wrong word, but you know what I mean, a point of frustration maybe for him as a performer. But that's well worth listening to. The other big bit of news, season 21 is the next collection set season. Yeah. It's releasing on the 16th of March, although don't hold your breath.
That's my mother's birthday.
Well, we know what she's getting. There was a special trailer featuring Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, and Mark Strickson, which was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Seems like it's going to be the first of like a multi-part story. There was a big cliffhanger at the end there.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, well, how are you? You've done all the Peter Davison. Well, you've done all the 80s box sets now. Where's this gonna go? Yeah, I don't really know what's gonna happen there.
Especially because it's going to be probably set on Tryon as well. So interesting one. But I suppose if you've run out of actors who are around to shoot stuff for the 60s box sets, maybe you need something to promote that while plugging a gap. I don't know. Anyway, so
cool.
A few headlines. Updated special effects on The Awakening, Frontiers, Resurrection of the Daleks, and the Caves of Androzani. There is a special edition re-edit of Warriors of the Deep with new special effects and a new surround sound mix.
And a new Merca.
and a new Merca, which looks fantastic, in fairness. A brand new set of In Conversation with Matthew Sweet, featuring Janet Fielding, Mark Strickson, and Matthew Waterhouse. They're always a big highlight of those sets.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. Making ofs for Resurrection of the Daleks and the Twin Dilemma, which are both going to be very interesting. Another one of those road trip movies, Look Who's Boating. 48 Hours with Fielding, with Toby Haydock hosting. Plus, and we've all been looking forward to it, a new escape room. And the Five-ish Doctors reboot is getting a brand new commentary.
Oh, cool. I didn't realise that was on it. Wow.
So that will be fun. That's going to be on the set. And it's going to have a brand new commentary track. I don't know if they've said who's going to be on it, but I would assume Colin, Peter and Sylve. But we'll have to see.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, That's very exciting. And have you got anything else, or can I do my quick little story before we get into War
But
Between?
the only thing I was going to say is that we've been sent a lot of books lately.
Ah, yes.
We've had this beautiful book from Peter McKinstry, which is The Art of Time Travel. I've done a review elsewhere on the channel, so go and check that out. It's a stunning book. It's absolutely gorgeous. But not biased or anything, but it just happened to fall open on this lovely classic Dalek picture. So yeah, fantastic, absolutely stunning. If you're a fan of particularly like Russell T Davies and like early Stephen Moffat era Doctor Who, this is like a gold mine for people because there's
some
so
great
much
stuff in there.
Stunning. It's really, really fantastic. So a huge thank you to Peter for sending that along. And
Friend of the show, thank you for watching, for your long hours of service, watching and listening to us.
And then we also had, courtesy of Beth at Penguin, we've had a lot of other Doctor Who books come through that I will get through and probably talk about at some point on here. We've got another of the Doctor Who Icons range, which is One Night Only, a Fela Kuti story. That's with Tom Baker at the bottom. Quite like these covers. They're quite snazzy. With like the Doctor at the bottom and then the famous person at the top. That's really cool. We've got Beth's most recent quiz book, her official one this time. So I think...
So we probably need to do something for that, don't we?
Yeah, and it's interesting because it has sort of like a story. There's like a narrative all the way through. It's all chapters. Yeah. So it's not just like, this is a chapter on, can you guess how many lights are on the console in 1975?
Which is the kind of question that Matt would have wanted.
So yeah, we'll do a little bit on that at some point. Maybe as a Patreon exclusive or something. Yeah. That might be a good fun Patreon video. And then we have The Adventures After, which is a lovely book as well, which has got stories in it by Beth herself and Katie Manning. Carol Ann Ford has got a story in there. Alfie Shaw. Yeah, lovely little cover as well. Nice hardback as well. Yeah. All printed on. Lovely. Smells good as well. Nice new book smell. So I will look forward to taking a look through those. So thank you very much, Penguin.
Fabulous.
Oh no, wrong Penguin.
Thank you, Penguins. So I've got a very quick story before we get into the war between the land and the sea, because time is precious, but I'm going to waste it by telling the story because I thought it was very cool. Yeah. So I was on a shoot last week and I met this gentleman, absolutely lovely guy called Nick. And I don't know how we got onto Doctor Who, but
inevitably it happens.
I brought it up. I must have run out of things to talk about that wouldn't scare a complete stranger off.
Yeah.
And
you got so comfortable with him.
Yeah, I was like, I trust you. Welcome in to my world.
Yeah.
And
safe space.
He told me out of nowhere, I've played a Cyberman.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, so you've got to tell me everything. And I was even bringing up photos on my phone going, was it this model? Which one was it?
And he ran away.
And I haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
I think he had to make a phone call, but it's been a very long phone call if that's the case. So he was one of the ensemble kind of cast movement people when the Symphonic Spectacular came to New Zealand. And they did a couple of dates in Auckland, a couple of dates in Wellington, and he was employed for the Auckland dates at Spark Arena, which is like the biggest indoor events venue in the country. I'm just trying to think of a time where Doctor Who could, I don't know if it was a sellout, but where they could have thought about putting it in like a 12, 15,000 seater venue like that with an orchestra.
Be lucky to get 15 people turn up.
Great days. But yeah, he played a Cyberman. He played a bunch of other monsters as well, and he had very fond memories of being taken through. What was the name of the lady who was always on Confidential? The small lady who always used to be the monster
the movement lady. Yes, yeah.
So she was flown over, along with all the makeup and props and wardrobe people, and he was telling me about the breathing exercises they ask you to do when they put you in the Cyberman outfit, because they've obviously had similar stories that David Banks has told about people freaking out being put in the costumes.
Yeah.
And they've obviously had people run a mile. So they were saying, look, okay, the helmet's going on now. Breathe deeply, nice deep breaths. Here we go. On it goes. And that's you in. And we can't get you out unless you have 3 people with you. But yeah, really, really cool dude, cool stories. And I didn't think I'd meet a Cyberman last week, so that was a big tick for me.
Lovely. Oh, very
Always
nice.
nice when
Yeah.
Doctor Who appears out of nowhere. Right, let's get down to the Homos. So this is the war between the land and the sea, the latest Doctor Who spin-off and the final piece of the puzzle in the Disney partnership,
Yeah.
um, which has basically resulted in nobody outside the UK being able to watch this.
Yeah, that's a bit bullshit, isn't it? I was trying to explain this to Annie last night because I sort of said, "Oh, we're going to be doing this review," and I was like, "Oh, when's Billy going to be able to watch this?" And she's like, "Oh, Disney Plus." I said, "No, they're not showing it on Disney Plus. Well, until the new year at some point."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well," and because we were sort of making a comment about how good it looked because they shot all this stuff in Mallorca and it looked fantastic in that first episode,
Mm.
and she said, "God, why the hell would they not put this on their streaming platform if they've put all this money into it?" I was like, "Well, that's Disney for you, isn't it? They just don't." I guess the Doctor Who side of things didn't generate enough interest that they hoped it was. So now this is just like, oh yeah, there's some more shit. We'll stick it on when
Yeah,
there's a dry spell.
yeah, I do kind of wonder if they're going to. Well, A, does it make any sense putting a big show out on your streaming service while Stranger Things is wrapping up? Probably
Yeah,
not.
no,
And also, maybe they're waiting to see what the reaction is from the fan base or from the general public to the series, because then they can figure out, right, do we do an episode a week or do we put it all out in
oh,
one
that's
go and
true.
just get rid of it? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because obviously we've been in a position before where a new Doctor Who spin-off that is tangentially related to the show in one way or another has been put out in bulk
mm,
on broadcast
yeah,
alongside a digital release. That of course happened with Class, and it got to the point where they were just putting on multiple episodes a night, one day after another, just to get through them.
yeah,
Um, but this doesn't seem to be the case with The War Between the Land and the Sea. It seems like they wanted to go for a big double opening episode
yeah.
premiere, which does happen. So here we are. I have to ask, because it wasn't on the version that I watched, was there a Hooniverse intro on the broadcast?
No, no, which
And
we
it's
thought was
not
interesting.
on, yeah, it's not on iPlayer as well,
No,
which is odd, but it is on the Sea Devils.
yeah, yeah. I guess
So
the only people who are going to tune into BBC4 to watch the Sea Devils are us sad bastards. Whereas the general public might watch The War Between the Land and the Sea, and if they suddenly see Shooty Gatwa's face and a load of like rubber monsters from 60 years ago, they'll probably go, "Oh no, not this," and turn it off.
well, A, change your intro, or B, don't have an intro at all, then I would
Yeah,
suggest.
yeah,
If you're going to be doing spin-offs, because the whole point is to have these things on TV for the vast majority of people to watch, uh, why do it in the first place if you're going to get suddenly scared that, oh, it's Doctor Who and people don't like Doctor Who anymore, so let's get rid of it.
yeah.
Feels like a weird move. Feels like they're pulling back on the Hooniverse thing, which
Mm,
obviously we can't give it a full approximation of how it's gone because we don't know what the full picture is. But yeah, it seems weird. They seem to be pulling back on all that stuff. So
I guess there's not much of a Hooniverse out there at the moment, like in terms of like current Hooniverse, because we're lucky there's going to be a Christmas special next year.
but surely, the Tales of the TARDIS aside,
Yeah.
this is what they were building up to.
Oh yeah. Oh for sure. Yeah.
Because they
And
had no other Hooniverse related things apart from the colorizations.
yeah, and the thing is, a lot of the social media posts have this billed as the war between rather than the war between the land and the sea, which obviously a lot of people have speculated. Well, was the plan to do the war between the land and the sea, and then series 2 be the war between whatever
The sky and the air,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I don't really know how far you could get with that unless you go like, oh, the humans and the potato heads.
You could do tractators suddenly turn up on Earth and do
Yeah,
the war between the soil and the Earth. Don't know
yeah.
if that really works. Anyway, so episode 1, Homo Aqua, written by Russell T Davis.
Yeah.
Spanish trawlerman.
Can we just,
yes.
before we get into it, can we just preface this? And I just want to issue a large apology to Russell T Davies and Pete McTighe for all the piss taking we did in the run up to this, because I really enjoyed it, and Annie really enjoyed it, and Jonathan really enjoyed it.
I can't believe it, because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we finished the first one, and we were like, yeah, it was funny. It was like no one really wanted to admit how much they enjoyed it, and it was like, oh yeah, it was all right. And then the second one finished, and we were like, that was actually really quite good. It's like, shame Doctor Who's not good like this anymore.
Well, that's the weird thing. Maybe we can get to the bottom of that by the end of this episode. Yeah. But yes, I was a fan, I have to say, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Me
and
too.
I don't think I really have been able to say that about Doctor Who for a while. Anyway, so Spanish trawlermen bring a load of fish on board, but there's a sea devil in their net. They blast its face off.
Yeah.
I do like that they have tried to replicate the sea devil scream, which we hear a couple of times.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
Although they've got their own like language.
Sure.
That works. It's got that vibrato.
Somebody do a translation underneath.
Yeah.
What was he saying?
Don't translate that. I said something bad. No, but they sort of added like a vibrato-y effect to it, like the Sea Devil voice of old. I do wonder if eventually, when they, in the next episode, when they go down into the underwater kingdom of the Sea Devils, if we start hearing them actually like having a bit of a chat, and hopefully they will still speak like that.
I hope so. Not turning to each other going, it's a bit fucking moist down here, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. They're weird, that.
Have you seen the nets they've got on sale down the
road? Yeah, Steve said his great granddad used to wear those.
Yeah, they're coming back into fashion.
His great granddad who got killed by them lot up there. Yeah. He was buried in it, actually.
I'm jumping ahead, but when they got to the bit in the second episode, and they're like, we've got three demands for like the armistice between the humans and the Sea Devils, and there was sort of like a bit of a build up to the third one. I was like, and our third demand is bring us John Pertwee.
Bring us fishnet stockings.
But I loved that intro where because the intro of this episode was like an inverse of the intro of the Sea Devils, because obviously the Sea Devils opens with the Sea Devils attacking the humans and sinking the ship, whereas this was like an inverse of that, and the humans attack the Sea Devil. So immediately we sort of feel sympathy for these creatures, because it's unceremoniously dragged up from the ocean in a horrible way, and then just gets blasted in the face. I think
what was he doing there? Firstly, Jeff the Sea Devil, and how often does this happen?
Well, yeah, who knows? Do you know what I mean? How often have you tucked into a bird's eye fish finger and it's actually been Sea Devil cloaca?
You've been
which they were very quick to mention in this. I was like,
that's true.
Thank you for explaining why my Sea Devil action figure does not have a cock and balls.
We finally solved it after all that. That's the stuff that we should be filling gaps for in Doctor Who's lore. Where's that fishy cock and balls?
Yeah,
right.
So you've not got any. I never put any padding in your cod piece, so cod piece as well. I never put any padding down there, so it's accurate.
It's accurate, okay. At least it's screen accurate. Finally, you didn't have to go and buy a fucking dragon dildo off Amazon. So Russell Tovey's Barclay is scrambled by unit to an oil spill in the North Sea, quote unquote. But he's replacing a gentleman called Roger Trevillick. The North Sea thing is a cover. He's off to the site of the Sea Devil jump scare that we just talked about. So Russell Tovey is great.
Oh yeah.
And he's absolutely fantastic in this. I love the HR confusion story because it's a really nice way of doing the classic Doctor Who thing of bringing in every man or woman into an extraordinary set of circumstances. And he is there basically to book taxis for units. There's a big kind of family setup as well with his ex-wife and his daughter Kirby.
Big Nintendo fan in that family.
Clearly. Have you met my daughter Wario? So they go to the Spanish island. Oh, we've got the return of General Pierce as well from Torchwood.
Yes, yeah, he's very good.
Which is really, really nice. He's great.
He's really good.
And we've got a couple of other. I'll call them red shirts for now because there isn't much to their characters beyond having a distaste for Barclay at the beginning, and then as soon as he seemingly says, "Oh, I met the Doctor once," by the way, they all seem to be on his side.
Yeah.
As like "Oh yeah, tell me more about this mystical man." But we'll get to that.
That annoyed me. I didn't like that. That sort of took me out of it a little bit, especially when he was like,
"I know what you mean.
I'll think about that moment of every second of every day." Fuck off.
I know. He was so vivid. It's like, I'm not fucking surprised if a bloke walked in wearing a fucking vest and a kilt. You'd probably describe him as vivid.
Yeah. Nah,
like,
he met Colin Baker.
Ah, there we go. Okay, fine. He was very shouty as well. He was horrible to the lovely lady he was with. So this sea devil has been tied up like a prized catch, which I thought was quite a nice visual. Yeah. There's something about the pearl in the throat that they mention, which I would imagine gets picked up later because they do a big point of kind of referencing it and putting it back in its 40 a day cigarette neck smoker hole.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noticed when like the first photos of the sea devils started coming out. It was like, oh, they've got like a little pearl decoration there. So
and they also mention it when they first come in for the first meeting as well.
Yes.
They wonder if they're like communicating via the pearls or something. So I'm sure that's going to be brought up at some point.
You got any pearls that I've not seen?
In his pants. In mythology and superstition, we used to call them sea devils, but we're better in the 70s. And in the 70s. But we're better than that now. Let's say Homo Aqua. Okay, cool, but you are still just making up a name and giving it to them. And arguably, they're going to get laughed at more now for that one.
Yeah.
But whatever. But then the unit advisor steps forward and says their correct term is Homo spondyle erectus.
No.
Which is even dirtier.
Yeah, they've got cloacas. Like, there's no erectus going on down there.
There's no erectus going on there whatsoever. There was a lot of this. I've listed all of the different species and subspecies of the sea devils that are brought up, but I have to say it was quite nice seeing the sea devil family expand.
Yes. Yeah, this is what I was sort of saying to Johnny last night, because he was like, I still don't like the way that I still don't like these designs of sea devils, which I agree. I'm not struck. I think they look amazing. They are incredible creature design. I think they look fantastic. The costumes are stunning. It's very, very impressive. Do I look at it and immediately go, these guys? No. But I like the way that they have clearly sort of made it as if like, well, there are different types of sea devils. So you've got these lads, and then you've got these new bluey ones with the sharp serrated beaks. You've got ones like Salt, who are more human again. You've got these big fish lads that just chill out in the fish tanks. There's a lot of different types of sea devils. I do know a spoiler for later on in the series about the sea devils, but I won't say it because I want people to enjoy it as it happens. But I think people will
don't tell me, because I don't want to be spoiled as well, because I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose it yet.
It's not like it's nothing big, but it will be something that when people catch it, they'll go, "Ooh."
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the sea devils with the staffs and the clacky turtle mouths are the sea devils that left school at 16, and Salt is from the group of sea devils that ended up going to university.
Yeah, that's probably right.
So Barclay is left alone with the Homo, then joins his unit compadres to send a sonic boom out into the med to say hello in the most threatening way possible. Yeah. So that's not a particularly great start for diplomacy.
No.
Then back at the Sea Devil crucifixion site, the ground starts to liquefy and swallows 2 unit soldiers as the Homo is retrieved.
Yeah, that was clever. I liked that sequence. That was, and it was almost like a little callback to something like the Hungry Earth. Obviously we've seen the Silurians can do it, so why not the Sea Devils turn this floor into quicksand and just
exactly. Yeah. Knowing that we basically got a license to say homo, and I've got it written down on my script numerous times. I'm trying to avoid the obvious, but there's a really, really nice bit of unit lore at this point.
Yeah.
At a time of historical, cultural, or political significance, a civilian must be present as a witness, which seems to me to be the clause that allows the Doctor's companions to be around when stuff's going
Oh,
on within the unit,
yes.
which I thought was a really cool little, you know, maybe not even an Easter egg, but
Yeah.
it sort of explains why people are just given clearance to
Yeah.
hang out and be around this paramilitary organization.
Yeah. I like
And
that.
it also is obviously a great excuse for Barclay to stick around. It makes sense to have him in the story
Yeah.
from that point. Yeah, then we have the soppy bit with him saying, I met the Doctor at Unit Tower. He calls him Vivid. Can't have been talking about the 15th Doctor then. The team then run off and have their first encounter with a live Homo.
Mm.
It screeches from the sea, and they have a chat in a really nice scene, I
Yeah.
thought.
That was a great scene. That was it was tense, but it was really good, and then when they all started coming out of the sea, obviously harkening back to their appearance in Doctor Who as well, and they all come out at night time. Yeah, very, very well done, because you just sort of thought, oh, I was waiting for one of those like trigger happy unit soldiers to just put a bullet in one of their heads, and then I was like, oh god, this is it, all hell's gonna break loose. Yeah, that was great. That was really well done. I not really liking Unit in this.
Okay.
Partly because they've got the uniforms that they wear, and I particularly noticed it on the girl that's sort of like with Barclay a fair bit, and Colonel Ibrahim. They look like the SS. They've got these black buttoned-up shirts, like little collars. They look like they should be on Skaro saluting Davros.
And the little kind of metal dog tags on their shirts and stuff.
Yeah. And now maybe that's what they're going for, because I think I read in an interview, Pete McTighe said that some of the anti-unit sentiment from Lucky Day is going to find its way into this. Yeah. And all the way through it, because, particularly in episode 2, when Unit becomes a bit more involved, because really in the first episode, Unit as we know them in terms of like Kate Stewart and stuff, only turn up like halfway through, and she doesn't do an awful lot, probably for the best. But some of their methods do seem a bit like, oh, this is a bit. I don't think your dad would approve of this, Kate. Like bundling up Barclay's family and sticking them in the bloody back of a car and kidnapping them. At least in the 70s, they'd have given them a cup of tea.
Yeah, at the very least. And maybe a big payoff.
Maybe a big payoff, yeah.
So, and that scene I thought was really tense where they're doing the translation back and forth, because I was just waiting for somebody to get a translation wrong. Yeah. And then for that to feed into the story later on, where they kind of establish some ground rules and they don't have an equivalent to this particular term. Yeah. And they get something wrong, and it's kind of, scuppers the negotiation process. But really good bit. The first time, and I'm surprised that this happened in a spin-off rather than in Doctor Who, because I'm sure this would be a good device for a Doctor Who episode. They send one of those emergency phone messages. And the Sea Devils reveal themselves to the world in a really cool sequence with all these kind of coral kingdoms rising out of the ocean, which looked fantastic. This is so slick looking, this series. They've really spent money on it, and you can see the money that's been spent on it. It's just class all round. Trinity Wells has a cameo, which is lovely to see. She announces H2O diplomacy. And then we see a huge pipe running from the Thames into Imperial House, because, of course, even though the conversations first started happening in the Med around Spain, it's got to come back to London. We've got to have a conversation around the Thames.
And I think that's the same place that they had the 456 in from Children of Earth.
And just like the 456, we have a big fucking glass container full of some kind of liquid, and then
it's clearly not water from the Thames. It's too clean.
It's well, that was interesting as well. I noticed that. I wondered what was going on there, but we've got plenty of that to get into. Yeah, because the big fucking semi-permeable membrane on the other side. So Barclay, sorry, is involved with the Homo meeting. Kate Stewart is monitoring. Ibrahim and Shirley Bingham, they are also there, but they are the only returning figures to
Yeah.
this show from the main series.
Yeah.
Interesting how none of it takes place in Unit Tower. So that set obviously got pulled down at some point, and they've struck up
Yeah.
something sort of similar.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then we've got a new member of U. Well, we've got a couple of new members of Unit. But notably was the lad from Sex Education. He's in it.
Yeah.
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 I one thing I will say about the Unit stuff, they try and inject a bit of humor here and there with this, which is obviously fine. I do think some of the humor sort of struggles in places. Like some of it is like, oh, it doesn't quite land. I know, like that lad in the next episode, he has a couple of lines where he says stuff and is like, I can see that is supposed to be funny, but it just doesn't feel like it really fits in the moment.
Well, I think it's fair to say at this point, for all of the grandizing, the grandstanding we've been doing about this story, the dialogue is ropey at times.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a problem with having a show set within the Doctor Who universe that is not for the target demographic of 6 to 12-year-olds or whatever it is. It's obviously for an older audience because Ibrahim and Kate get it on at one point, although it doesn't quite go to Torchwood levels where you see everything.
Yeah, thank God.
But yeah, I think there's a bit of a clash of tones at times where it is trying to do the Doctor Who thing of everybody, gather together. Let's all be one people, and let's all be good to each other. But then there is also some of the sort of actually jokes that I would have thought Russell wouldn't have written or would have had characters admonished for making reference to.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Homo stuff or certain references to Sea Devils being Christians, or there were just a few things in there that I thought maybe they are trying to reach a non-Doctor Who audience with the way that certain characters are interacting with each other, particularly characters with sort of generational gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. And particularly, I thought like the end of this episode where Salt decides that she wants Barclay to be the ambassador of the human race because he showed reverence to the dead Sea Devil by making the sign of the cross. His reaction to that, like, is what? Me? Sort of. It felt like it was like, oh, this is getting a bit. It was a bit
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, it was like it's getting a bit campy and cartoonish. This is like, maybe you should have. I mean, I'm sure they did do a what take and then do a more serious like what. But I think maybe they should have gone for the more serious take. But
they omitted the take where Barclay's tie rolled up and steam came out of his ears.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different life forms at the meeting. There's regular Homos. There's Pisomorpha grandis, which is the bulldog fish hybrid, which was a curious addition, but I quite liked seeing them there. It's like, oh, okay, they kind of like the attack dogs of the Sea Devils.
Yeah, they look quite cool. I think that made me think of like old like Missing Adventures and like New Adventures books. Where, like you'd see a Silurian riding the back of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And it's like, I could imagine like the Sea Devils maybe like ride these things into battle when needs be or whatever.
I'm sure we'll see them crop up again because they were a fun little addition.
Yeah.
And then of course we have Homo morphosapien or Homo amphibian, which is Salt. And there's a tense opening exchange. Lady Homo requests to speak with Barclay, who, as we mentioned, showed respect to their dead Sea Devil brethren, showing kindness, crossing himself, and he agrees to be Earth's ambassador. Yep. And I've just written, okay, great first step at the bottom of my sheet.
Yeah, I mean, we all came out of it being like, yeah, that was solid. That was good fun. Yeah, like you said, it's really slick piece of television, and all the location stuff in Mallorca looked fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it was top notch, really. And the Sea Devils, like I said, whether or not you like them as a design, as a creation, were very well done, and it was great to see them actually in the sea doing some swimming. You know, that bit where they go through the tunnel and you see them properly swimming. That was great because we've never seen that before in Doctor Who. Like, not even this lot did it. They just jumped like Super Mario.
I even like just seeing them standing in the tide because you're confident that those things aren't going to fall to bits in terms of the costumes, and you're not just going to see one lone sea devil floating face down, going off and being carried away with the current. But yeah, I thought the visuals of it all looked fantastic, and props to the design team because it's very hard to reimagine a character, and you obviously face the ire of Doctor Who fans if you don't get it quite right. But then at the same time, it's like, what do we know about character design? So I think they've done something that stands up with the original design elements of the Sea Devils, but is also bringing something completely new. And it almost does make the ones from Legend of the Sea Devils look more like a nostalgia act. And actually, when you see them
I know what you mean.
that episode, they do look and move more like classic Doctor Who monsters. And you go, actually, maybe there is an argument for the design, not just the construction and the way that the costumes move or react on camera, the implementation of certain elements of the design. Maybe there's a reason why we leave some of those designs in the past.
Yeah, I think the problem with like these ones, the Legend of the Sea Devils ones, is that it's a solid mask. There wasn't the time to make it animatronic in any way, and I think that's what gives it the problem when you watch Legend of the Sea Devils, is that it just does feel like a classic monster, like a classic prop being pulled out of service, wobbling about. It would have been cool if the techniques from this could be applied to something like that, then hell, that'd be really cool. But obviously it was just not possible. But yeah, I was really impressed with them, and I think that this is kind of the cool thing with probably the good thing for a designer with something like a Sea Devil or a Silurian, is that it has now been very strongly and well established that the one design that everybody likes doesn't necessarily have to be the design that you go back to. We can do variations of it, and they can all share a same space within the continuity. It's not just like, oh, they've changed it for the sake of changing it. It's like, oh no, these are the ones from the south coast of England, and these are the ones from the south coast of
Northern Sea Devils.
Yeah, these are the Spanish Sea Devils. Here's your English Sea Devils. They like to wear netting because the water's colder.
And then wear wife beaters.
Yeah, and then as we go further into the future, we have the Samurai Sea Devils, who have obviously gone for more of a weeaboo type.
Eastern influence.
They like their anime, they think they're like really into katanas and stuff, but they look fucking stupid, but you can't tell them that. But
and they're obviously very influenced by Japanese pop culture and the way they jump like Super Mario. So there's an awful lot to dig into there. We've got a super chat from MCFC Blue 20. Thank you very much for your £5 super chat. Morning, lads. Wow, what a great piece of TV last night. What a long way we have come from having Space Babies as the opening episode. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, episode 2, written by Pete McTighe.
Yes.
This is Plastic Apocalypse, which sounds like an explosion in a sex toy factory. Barclay is grilled by Kate.
Yeah.
The UK Prime Minister and the UN Ambassador get Kate to renegotiate their rep. Or try and press her to do so. They ask to speak to Barclay, and he asks for the lady Homo's name. She says her name is Salt, which is an interesting name. I'd wonder if we'll get to the bottom of that at some point.
Yeah. Someone said, I posted a picture over the weekend of my Sea Devils, and someone said this one should be called Pepper, which I thought, great. Makes sense.
The other one can be Coriander or something.
Basil.
So there's a big that actually works though. There's a big speech here which I think could be part of the problem connecting to a general audience, because the general consensus, I think, amongst a lot of people who aren't Doctor Who fans who have caught the show on the odd occasion, is that it is quote unquote woke and is doing a lot of woke pandering to its audience.
Yes.
And I think there are a couple of moments in this moment in particular, where Barclay says, "This moment affects normal people, not just presidents, and people like me should have a voice." And the kind of, "Oh, I've been ignoring my kid, but they're telling the truth. The kids are
Yeah.
telling the truth." That kind of thing. There's a couple of moments where I just think, if this is going to be a theme going forward, this is going to
Mm.
get really boring really quickly. And I think it might just elevate that side of people's opinion on Doctor Who, that, it's a morality tale that everybody's being kind of forced to watch and think about what you did,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I thought they handled it well. I mean, obviously, I thought I thought they handled it well, and also until then, you're literally raining plastic down on people. But which I thought was an excellent scene. I thought that whole sequence was really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm woke, so I it doesn't bother me. I was like, yeah, no, you tell them. I thought it was handled pretty well, but obviously, like you said, you're bound to get people who are like, oh, I'm gonna moan about it. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, obviously, this is an incredibly important issue.
Yes. This is like one of those things that, although people will argue about it, it is inarguable. And I
Yes,
think that there is a chance that people who don't take that sort of thing seriously, I'm not saying that they're suddenly going to have their minds changed about global warming by
no,
a bunch of homos wandering around London, but I do think there is a chance that somebody who is inclined to listen to media
yeah,
and maybe try and take something like that on board, you know, everything that's being said in this is common sense. It's not like
yeah,
a contrary opinion to take. It
no,
shouldn't be anyway.
yeah,
But I think that is going to probably stand this series in good stead, is that nobody is arguing about the points they're making. I just
yes,
think there is a chance that if this style of posturing runs through the rest of the series, that even
yeah.
to us who are completely on board with the message they're trying to get across, it could get quite
It could
tiring.
get, yeah. Um, Yeah, and I liked the way that they introduced the new characters as well, who are like these bloody corporations who are
Mm,
clearly just like, well, fuck them fishes. We want to make our money and we want to do it our way. So it's all big business, which is obviously unfortunately the way that the world is. Because we sort of discuss this at work a lot as well about things. No matter how much you do yourself at home, whether you're doing your recycling or whatever, no matter how much we do, it's these big bloody corporations that are the ones
yeah.
that need to change. And obviously this comes up when they're having the negotiations with Salt. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we're committed to change. It's just going to take us 40 years.
Yeah.
And then,
I thought that was interesting because from a perspective of, I don't know how any of those systems and work,
yeah,
I'm kind of like, their hands might actually be tied at this point. I mean, we do live in a system where we rely entirely on finance.
yeah,
And do we have the technology to be able to ready this sort of thing up
yeah,
in an instant?
yeah,
Like in real world terms, how long did it take for them to build that tunnel going into
yeah,
Imperial House? But how long is it going to take for them to get something together that allows Barclay and presumably whoever else needs to come with him to get down to the sea level base in the Atlantic Ocean?
yeah,
I think that actually did generate some tension and some jeopardy, because there is a point of him going, there's only so much we can do,
yeah,
but that's also the problem because we haven't been doing enough up to this point
yeah.
to rectify the situation.
I I think what they really should have done was be like, look, you clearly are very technologically advanced, more so than we are. Do you want to pop up here and give us a hand? I know it's a bit shitty of us to say, can you help us? But you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
I imagine that if that happened, they probably would have just taken that giant anchor and dropped it directly on top of whoever said that. So Barclay is made Earth's ambassador, and Kate has a nice chat with him in a unit jeep and is prepared to give him a chance.
Yeah.
I loved all of the stuff with the script that he's being told to stick to,
Yeah.
because again, it's sort of pointing towards the empty tokens that are handed out by politicians, where they try and sound like they're offering a middle ground, or they
Yeah.
try to sound like they're being they're having a conversation, but actually they're just kind of brick walling and filibustering,
Yeah.
which I thought was really good. Salt drops some of her eggs on the floor.
Oh, sorry. There's someone
Um,
knocking at the door. I know what this is.
oh, there's something
Oh,
very exciting happening that nobody can be clued in on right now. So we must press on. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us, by the way. I know it's, I would say, silly o'clock in the morning, but I've had some crazy starts the last couple of weeks. So, but we appreciate you all being here before you head off to work and or school. And of course, this episode is going to be available for you to listen back to on streaming, and it will stay here on the channel for you to watch whenever you fancy. Chronoculars, thank you very much for the $5. The real acid test will be if they commit to an ending with lasting consequences. But so far, a great couple of episodes. Glad
I'm
to see
back.
Rod back at it. Matt's back.
I had
Thank
a
you,
dead.
Chronoculars. Yeah.
I had a dead leg as well. My leg had fallen asleep, so I hobbling. Oh, hang on a minute. I locked the dog away. He's probably thinking, "What's going on?"
So yeah, it will be interesting to see if there are lasting consequences. I suppose it would be tricky with no guarantee of a second series to see. There he is.
Here he
Okay,
is.
we've got him with us. Thank God.
I got a sea devil with me. He does look like a sea devil. If you put his ears back, he's
There is a
boggle.
slight,
He's a
yeah,
boggle-eyed
he's
boy.
bog-eyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a weird looking thing.
Oh, my baby.
So yeah, let's have a look at this weird thing with the eggs, because I am kind of assuming,
Yeah.
or I thought this was the case when it first happened. Maybe it's not. I thought that those eggs might be a bit of an insurance policy for the Sea Devils if things go tits up, that they might
Yeah.
actually be bombs or something.
That's what I thought as well. I thought there might be more to it than that.
Yeah.
Because they showed one of those eggs at San Diego Comic Con, didn't they? When they launched
Oh.
that Black Archive thing. So, because when they turned up, I was like, I'm sure I've seen this in something before, and then it twigged. Yeah, that whole sequence with that guy doing the shift at the laboratory and stealing a bit of the, bit of the
slide.
shell or whatever. Yeah, and then handing it off to this naughty businessman and getting his citizenship. As someone whose partner is an immigrant, she was not particularly impressed with this idea that all immigrants are going to do naughty things to get their citizenship. But
I think that it's supposed to be fuck this guy for being a horrible asshole pig, promising this guy stuff. So I totally get where she's coming from, but he's definitely supposed to be out to be the bad guy.
Oh, for sure. And then I thought that was, God, I was hungry watching them eating that bloody nice selection of tap.
Oh my God, tell me about it. That looked great.
It did, didn't it? I was like, God, if I was one of those actors, I'd be like, I'm gonna fuck up every take just so I can keep eating this stuff.
I had to do that the other day. I had like 3 or 4 baked potatoes in front of me, and I cut them into 50ths.
Yeah.
Just because I couldn't eat any of the food, so I just had to keep quartering them and quartering them and quartering the quarters and quartering the quarters and the quarters. So they do the lab thing. So the shady people, one of them is a he's like he's an industrialist, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's like a donor for the party that is currently in charge with in the UK in universe.
It's what's his name from The Office, isn't it? It's thingy from The Office.
Oh,
this is the oh God, what's his name?
From the other branch, from the
Neil?
the Swindon branch.
Is it Neil? Is that his name?
Is that him? The one who comes in with the everybody likes him and he's got the leather jacket.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Hell. So he's this guy who's only kind of interested in the industrial side of things. Then there's the French delegate. And then there's the US general, because of course I found it interesting that they went for France as the bad guy.
Yeah, that was a bit left of field, but
maybe they just looked at the list of nations which aren't buying Doctor Who and thought, right, We'll have you. For some reason, Kazakhstan is above France, so we'll make you the bad guys. Um, but then I guess at the same time, it's like, how many European countries can you do that to without it
Yeah.
being like, oh, that's a bit near the knuckle, you know?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wonder if there is like a territory thing there. Like we can't say China because that'll upset them, and
No, can't say Russia because that's too close to what's
to
happening
home.
in the
Yeah.
real world. Can't say Germany because, they haven't got a great track record. So, how many other nations? Could she
Yeah.
have been Swedish? How about you pick a really neutral country like Switzerland
Yeah.
that, maybe they've got a Torchwood branch that we don't know about. She
We've
Torchwood? Sorry, we got a super chat. I read the $5 one out, Matt. So you do
fantastic.
macro.
Oh, thank you, Macro. So we've got. I thought the show has actually been pretty good so far. Cautiously excited for the last 3 episodes. Rusty Davies' finale curse pending. P.S. Matt, you did a great job with Diggy Diggy Hole 2, and the Jingle Jam is doing great. Oh, thank you, Macro. Yeah, this was something that we said ourselves last night. It was like, I wonder how this is all going to get wrapped up because, it certainly doesn't feel like all of a sudden, the humans and the sea devils are going to be living together singing Kumbaya, my lord, on the surface of the earth. Something needs to happen that the toys get put back in the box and the status quo is reverted back to normal. And, maybe there are tensions of like, what
we'll come back, but
we'll get
only
you
if
next
we
time.
get a renewal.
Yeah. So that will be interesting to see how that happens.
I think that all hinges on how well this show does. I mean, like, or whether how we take the finale anyway.
Yeah.
Because Russell did say during the press that there is a post-credit scene that we all need to look out for, which would be interesting. Now, at this point,
David Tennant turns up. He's like, "Oh, sorry, I was in the garden and a Coca-Cola bottle hit me on the head."
This is exactly what I was going to talk about. So at this point, which I'm surprised it didn't crop up in my mind before this. So right at the point where Barkley is explaining his new role to his family, and that whole family thing is really nice. All the stuff in the hotel where she's raiding the mini bar, and the conversations that Barkley's having with Kirby, I thought were all really nice.
I laughed at it. Like the ex was jealous of
of the fish lady. Yeah. And then she orders the fish on room service.
Oh, a bitch.
I think she's got reason to be worried, personally. I think there's some sparks, there's some flippers flapping.
There's some flippers flapping.
It was at that point that I asked, where's the 14th Doctor in all of this?
Yeah.
And I just think it is one of the worst decisions that has been made storyline-wise in Doctor Who. Because there is no good reason why that man should be suddenly deciding I'm not going to interfere in any of this.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why that decision was made, because when stuff like this happens, which, let's be honest, happens in Doctor Who every other week, we're all turning to each other going, where's that spiky head fella?
Yeah. Maybe he's just gone off on holiday this week.
But that defeats the point of him retiring.
Yeah, I know.
In which case, why did he retire in the first place, and why is he not helping out? I don't get it. I will not understand where that line of thinking came from.
It will never make sense. It will never make sense. I think we just have to pretend that didn't happen.
We can't, Matt. Ibrahim and Kate have a tender moment, and she mentions that every man usually has the Doctor with them.
Yeah. Why didn't they just ring him up on the bloody phone? This is what we were saying last night. And he was like, why didn't they just ring up the Doctor?
Even if it isn't, even if
it's not a 14, Surely they've got the number to the TARDIS phone or the space-time telegraph. Sea Devils again. Help.
Yeah. Like, he would have been involved right at the start of this story.
Yeah. It was sort of different.
Maybe it feels like they're like, we've left it a bit too late now. Because like, we've got a lot to catch him up on if we call him now. And this is a very fast-moving situation. He's going to come in, and maybe it's so delicate that they think we can't involve the Doctor in this.
Maybe.
Because maybe there is a higher likelihood of people dying
Mm.
with his involvement than if they just got on with it
Maybe
themselves.
maybe that's what the 14th Doctor is thinking. Well, he's sat at home watching BBC News and sees all this stuff, and
Yeah.
Donna's like, "Come on, why aren't we over there sorting this out?" Oh, Donna! Every time I've tried to sort out bloody sea devils, they all fucking die. It's a nightmare. I'm the last person they need. You know, sea devils, Silurians, they all end up bloody dying as soon as I turn up.
Donna, I bet you money this is going to go tits up. So
Yeah.
how about we just let them get on with it? Um, so
And
Barclay's
your
identity.
dad's got a used condom stuck on his head, so you better go.
Barclay's identity is revealed to the world by the French diplomat who was in that shady meeting.
Yeah.
And then to placate the press, Kate agrees to let them in to the human Homo meeting.
Yeah.
Then we have the first parley with the fish, the first
Mm.
proper meeting.
Yeah.
Salt requests water from the River Thames, and you know exactly where this is going. So
Yeah.
a dirty glass is brought in, then Salt tells Barclay to drink it. And I really like that whole scene because
Mm.
you know that he can't drink it, and then they bring up the specific reasons why
Yeah.
without doing the whole, look how bad this is. This is the stuff that we have in our waterways, everybody. It's just stated as facts. Like,
Yeah.
this is how fucking dirty the Thames
Yeah.
is.
It was
I thought
like
it was really
E.
nice.
coli, meningitis, dysentery.
Yeah.
I think they should let him drink it and shit himself on the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah, maybe. That and then at least they'll go, oh yeah, this is bad, isn't it? I thought, sorry, Barclay, I shouldn't have made you do that. So he's told to stick to the script, but takes out his earpiece. He talks about pollution and everyone's part in it. And Salt calls him her favorite human.
Mm.
Then there's some very Doctor Who-y technobabble about how the Sea Devils communicate,
Yeah.
which I think distracts from the plot because it doesn't really go anywhere. It's
No.
just an excuse for the unit to kind of stand around and just waffle on for a bit in one big long shot as well, which
Yeah.
was really
It was good.
nicely choreographed, but it did sort of distract from the meat of the drama just for the sake of talking
Yeah.
about how they communicate, which I don't think is really going to be going anywhere.
Yeah. Unit at the moment feels very much like it's, something will be said and then it's like we will cut to Unit for an aside, and this is how this works in scientific terms. What I want to know is they didn't bloody explain how all that fucking pollution came flying out the sky though. Where was the answer for that?
That's a great question. We'll get to that. The humanity offers a 50% reduction of water pollution within 40 years, which is unacceptable to Salt. Now, I'm not. I don't mean to sound rude saying this because they are the put upon species in this situation.
Yeah.
But can I ask why they just don't hibernate for 40 years and then come out? And if they haven't fixed it, then they have every right to blow us up.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've been sleeping for millennia.
Yeah, it's like just have a kip.
Yeah.
If we haven't got it right, you have every right in the world to dump every deep sea fishing vessel that's ever been left at the bottom of the ocean on top of our important buildings.
Yeah.
But and that's the tricky thing with the hands tied thing is like we actually can't do this because world governments haven't got the systems in place.
Yeah.
And even if they did, it's you're asking us to accelerate beyond what our technology is capable of.
Yeah.
So it was really clever because they've got us over a barrel because none of this would be happening. We wouldn't have to reverse anything if we hadn't just been looking after the planet. But also they have unrealistic expectations of what the humans are able to deliver. But it's not unrealistic from their perspective because they're the ones that
they're living
on
it.
condoms.
Yeah.
So it's just
for all this stuff we joked about on the review of Death about sea devils choking on condoms. It happened.
It's
folks.
literally happening.
It's happening.
And she mentions excrement, so I imagine that she's had a couple of healthy turds float through her apartment at some point. Salt accelerates the humans' desire to deplete the ocean of plastics. And so a flurry of plastic trash rains from the sky somehow because the sky, we learn later the sky and the ocean is connected because there would be no sky without the ocean. So I assume that's kind of a reasoning for it.
I thought they were going to have like some giant rubbish cannon, and they were just going to like, it was going to pop out the Thames, and it was going to like just fire it up into the air, and then it was just going to come falling back down on them. But
they'd have to have a lot of cannons to get that right.
Yeah.
Barclay's X and Kirby run through the chaos after their driver is killed, which I thought was quite a nice little bit of action.
Yeah.
They make it to Imperial House. General Pierce says the Homos are declaring war. Funny bit about the Titanic finally reaching its destination in New York. I thought that was a cool visual.
Yeah.
Then we have the Nigel Farage clone, the Albion Party leader,
yes, yeah,
saying this is a call to arms against our common enemy, Homo Aqua. And
Albion. I didn't notice it was Albion. Was the party?
It was Albion.
And clever.
Interesting as well. I think it's the same news network that Roger Ap William was talking on.
Oh, interesting.
But I do like how they make a distinction even in modern Doctor Who, that there's BBC News and then there's GB News, to the point where the logo even looks like the fucking GB News logo, and it's shot in a much shoddier way.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really neat.
That is clever.
So there's obviously some sentiment, anti-Homo sentiment, that's going to be generated by the Farage clone.
Yeah. That made me think of Little Britain, that bit, because it reminded me of
exactly
that skit with the guy and his wife outside the house.
He asked me to see the time. I said yes, and promptly fell inside him. Back at the meeting, Barclay tries to cool things down because everybody's getting outraged by these demands that are not being met, and by the stuff raining from the sky. He goes off script, and Kate references the Doctor, saying, "Oh, is that the Doctor?" No. Then Salt runs down much better dress sense. But then Salt runs down her list of demands, which includes exclusive rights to the oceans, not allowing humans to travel on sea or by air. And then the third condition is for the next meeting to take place in the Atlantic Ocean, to which Barclay agrees. But there is an odd bit in the middle of all that where Salt morphs into a bloke.
Yes. Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, they've sort of said earlier on, aren't they, that as creatures they're intersex because they've got cloacas, so they're I guess that's like a defense mechanism. I guess how certain creatures, they make themselves big and with like fins or whatever and stuff. So I guess that just as a defense mechanism or whatever to scare off predators, they just the testosterone builds up and they turn into big bloody blokes.
Better make myself look big.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that. Which I thought was quite cool, and I thought it was well done because it was quite a subtle morph, and then it was like, oh, hang on, what's going on here? The skin was getting darker, and then the brows getting heavier and stuff. It was a neat little idea. It was clever, but surely they should have just said just grown a beak and turned into one of the ones next to him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so they're all blokes, which is why they're practically mute and all very dumb and just think with their fists. And then she's the only woman in the Sea Devil Kingdom.
Yeah.
And that was that. That was that for episode 2. And I have to say, I'm sold. Yeah. There are some clumsy moments dialogue wise, but I can't deny that I think it's a great start to the series.
Yeah.
And its execution is fantastic. The cast are great. It's really engaging. It's very entertaining. So, look, I just have to say that I don't think this is a case as well of our expectations being so low going into it that we were pleasantly surprised by it. Yeah. I just think actually it's pretty good.
This is a good point. Sorry, James Stopboy said it's a misogynistic thing. Salt has to become a man to be listened to rather than being female. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
It's very smart. Yeah. And I guess, her coming out as a woman, it feels like, it's a softer way of negotiating, and then like James has said, yeah, that was great. That was a very good scene because I thought, oh god, this is it now. I thought that guy who was like, well, our country, we need to trade with other countries because otherwise our lot are gonna die. I thought that Sea Devil was just gonna throw that spear, and I thought, oh fuck, this is it. This is where it's all gonna kick off.
For sure.
It was good. It was very good.
And I think the way that Salt is being played and written is like that really great thing about Doctor Who and great Doctor Who villains, even though she's not a traditional villain. That you feel like you could parlay with them, and that there is a middle ground that she's straddling while also being totally, in line with her principles and protecting her species, and she has every right to be pissed off at humanity. But there is also a humanity to her, and I just think the setup really works, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. And I have faith that because they've got so few episodes to work with, that you're not going to get so distracted by telling puff stories in the middle of the run, and that then detracts from the last two episodes where everything gets tied up. I think because they've only got 5 episodes to work with, I'm pretty convinced it's going to be solid. Right through to the end. That doesn't mean that the last episode isn't going to have a big mad 5-minute rush towards the end, which is really the only concern I have. In terms of the pacing and the execution of it. But I'm very happy to report that on the Rod side of things, the War Between the Land and the Sea gets a thumbs up, and I genuinely did not think that we were going to be saying that.
No, nor me. I was so pleasantly surprised last night. In fact, we obviously it was on late, so we watched it and basically went straight to bed. And he sort of said to me, she's like, "Oh, I'm quite sort of buzzing after watching that." She said that was really good. She said, "God, how nice to be able to watch, Doctor Who or a Doctor Who adjacent thing and come out like really enjoying it." It was really well done. Like you said, really slick production, and just a good story, really. I just hope that, like you said, it sticks the landing towards the end. I think you're right. I think because it's 5 episodes, you're less likely to go off the rails and do, I hate to use the term filler episodes, because that's become a bit of a buzzword and I hate it. But I think like we probably won't get much of that. I think it will stick to, this is the story we're trying to tell, and we have to tell it within this length of time. And then maybe this is something that Doctor Who could learn from. I certainly think like a serialized format for Doctor Who, we've been saying this since Flux, is probably the way forward in today's television climate. I don't think, same with Flux, Flux was able to do individual stories amidst a big long arc. I just think so long as every episode's end with a cliffhanger, like they did in the 60s, a serial would end, but there'd still be a cliffhanger into the next one. I think even if you do that, that's just that draw that you need to go into the next story. Or maybe Doctor Who needs to take a leaf out of this and obviously like 70s Pertwee Who, and maybe it needs to do a few more grounded stories. Maybe it needs to not necessarily lock the Doctor off from the TARDIS and have him be stuck on Earth, but maybe it needs to, I don't know. I think because someone was saying in the comments earlier on, there was like, well, where's the Vlinks and where's all that stuff? I was like, well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the issue that Doctor Who is having, is like, UNIT has just become this Avengers style, "Hi, I'm Kate Stewart, and here's our sidekick, the Vlinks, who's come from wherever." And you're like, fuck off. You're just a paramilitary organization. You're just the military with a few more scientists kicking around. Maybe it needs to ground itself a bit more. I think that's obviously why Doctor Who had works in the past, is because it's a grounded world and you have this fantastical figure and fantastical things happen around it. I think as soon as the Doctor's mates start having funny robot friends and they're all quippy and, bit cartoony, then you start getting into, this is a bit naff.
I agree. Because, it's difficult to find a way for the Doctor to be in this story. But I think the way that they're telling this story and the real world implications and influences that it has,
Yeah.
I think is exactly what Doctor Who should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that it is sort of it's a way more intelligent way of tackling these subjects than Doctor Who has
Yeah.
managed to offer up lately.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's well, actually, I think I do know why. It's because they have time
Mm.
to not just do, broad paint strokes of, explanations or analysis of these really heavy topics.
Yeah.
They are actually able to just, you know, let it breathe.
Yeah.
And I saw lots of comments from people online saying I was actually really bored by this. In fact, I'll bring up the comments
Oh,
from
yes,
the
please.
Rodders
Yeah.
over on Instagram. But that was a recurring criticism I saw, was that people were actually quite bored by it. But I loved it. I loved the pace of it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
finally, this is actually breathing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
so the epic
the
growth,
only issue was like this with comparison to the first and the second episode. Obviously, the first episode had like these big set pieces, and then
yeah,
episode 2 felt very constricted to everything happening in that hall, which I don't think was a bad thing. But I can see why, going from one to the other, people might have been a bit like, "Ooh, what?" But of course, then you had the really big set piece with the plastic coming out of the sky, which was a really
yeah.
great moment, and it looked really good. Although that first plastic bag that floated around was the most fake-looking plastic bag I'd ever seen.
It's up there.
It was hilarious. I was like, "Oh, come on! You could have just put an Asda bag on a piece of string. Come on,
You can make whole sea kingdoms rise from the Thames, but you can't do a
come on."
plastic bag.
Yeah,
The epic Groke, I was pretty bored. Maybe next episode will pick up a bit. Very glad people actually died. It made me take it more seriously. Lime, Yo Toko, it was much better than I expected. I'm really enjoying myself, and I reckon if Disney Plus Doctor Who had been a bit closer to this in tone, then the
yeah,
deal might not have ended already. Jace T. Walker, this is closer to what RTD2 should have been. And I can
yes,
totally see if Disney read this script first, as opposed to The Star Beast, which was written after
yeah.
them partnering on Who. This is leagues better than series 1 and 2. The most I've enjoyed Doctor Who stuff since Wild Blue Yonder.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's pretty fair.
Martin King, I watched this with my parents and we really enjoyed it. My parents haven't watched Doctor Who since 2017 and we had a laugh. Episode 1 was a bit slow off the mark, but as it went on, we all really got into it and now I'm eager for the rest.
Mm.
Dalek Cloudman, I'm bored, honestly. Tovi is a gem of an actor and the music is quite good, but I can't be bothered about the rest. I hate the right to left to right again camera movements. I saw too many edit mistakes. I like the green message, but I think it's too overdone. I cringed at Kate and Ibrahim's spicy time. As it's only 3 more episodes, I think I'll finish the series. Hope the underwater meeting brings a little more depth to the story, pun intended. And Rob is all right, says bit naff. Um, and I can see where people are coming from. I think bit naff is not where I would stand
No,
on a point of order, but I can see why people would say that. But I was really engaged. I was entertained,
me too.
and I'm
Well,
going
all
to be
three of
back
us.
next week.
All three of us here loved it.
Exactly.
So yeah,
And
pleasantly
I'm going to be back
surprised.
next week, and I'm going to have some fun with it. So that's great.
Definitely, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's nice to have something to look forward to on the telly at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good stuff. So, well, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us early this morning to discuss it. Not sure when we'll do episodes 3 and 4.
We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out. But yeah, thank you for everybody who was here watching live. And thank you for the super chats from people as well. That was very kind of you. Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with this. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, and particularly next week, because I'm sure we'll get to see more Sea Devil action if we're going onto their home turf. So that's exciting.
And so now
cool.
it's 1 episode a week until the 21st.
No,
Is that right?
it's 2 next week as well. It's 2
Oh,
next
wow.
week,
Okay.
and then the final episode, which is a
Great.
shame, because we said this, we were enjoying it so much. Like, I would have gladly followed this for 5 weeks, rather than spaffing it all out. But hey ho, that's the way it is. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time for the next episodes. So see you soon. Bye bye, everyone. Bye
Goodbye,
bye.
fellow